Happy Monday morning to each and every one of you, and welcome to Monday Morning Meditation. I thank God for each and every one of you joining me this morning at this early hour. I pray that you're preparing for an amazing week. I pray that you have set yourself up in your own mind to have a prosperous and powerful week. The Lord is on your side. And so we're going to do what we need to do this week to make sure that we manifest what God has prophesied and planned for our lives. Again, happy belated Father's Day to all the amazing fathers out there and father figures. I pray that you had an amazing day yesterday. I pray that you didn't have to get on the barbecue grill and cook your own dinner yesterday. I pray that you were catered to for being the good father that you are. We had an amazing worship experience yesterday at the Main Street Church of God in Christ, and thank God for all of you, all the members and friends, guests who joined us yesterday, and we're looking forward to what the Lord is going to do even in our midst this week. But this morning, I want to set the tone for the week with this word, self-assessment. All right, self-assessment. That's the thought that I want you to take into the next 7 days. Let me be honest with you. One of the most frustrating lives you can ever lead is to live your life trying to change people. I'm going to just be real with you. That's one of the most frustrating lives you could ever lead, is trying to change people. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't help people. We should. We were put here partially for their purpose, to help people. I'm not talking about helping people. I'm talking about attempting to change people. Because the only person you can truly change, and only then with the help of God, is you. The person sitting in your seat right now. And think about this. Even with God's help, how difficult has it been for you to change in your life? Right? Think about all the things that you knew about yourself as a young person. Think about all the truth that you had received throughout your life. Was it the fact in every situation, or most of the time, because there was somebody that was on your head about it that made you change it? In fact, sometimes you did the exact opposite to spite the person who kept attempting to make you change or adjust something, right? Because that's kind of the nature of people. Like, if somebody's trying to push me to be something or do something that I want to do, then my natural reaction would be to fight against that or push back against that, because I want to show you that I'm in control of my own life. Well, many times we get frustrated because we look at people knowing what the truth is or what better could be for them, and we want more for them sometimes than they want for themselves, right? And so then you lose energy and sleep and time trying to push, pump, and prime somebody to be what they have the capability of being, but what they don't have the desire to be. And one thing that you cannot implant in a person, you can implant wisdom and knowledge into a person. You can give them information, but you cannot give a person desire. That comes from a different place. It's about what motivates you to be you, what motivates you to want to do the things that you want to do. What do you want in life, right? You can't make someone want more than they want. You can show them more than they've ever seen, right? You can model what good looks like, but a switch has to flip in them for them to want, right, what you think that they should be able to have or what they're capable of attaining, all right? And I'm not talking right now from the perspective of just a pastor. I'm thinking in terms of a coach, right? Like, those are the things that are really, really important. You have to understand how your gifts work, right? And when we look at David and Goliath, David threw the rock, hit Goliath in the forehead, right? And Goliath tumbled to the ground, cut his head off, scripture fulfilled, right? But at the end of the day, the rock that David used on Goliath would not have worked on the lion or the bear, because that's not what his rock was for. So at the end of the day, if David would have attempted to use his rock on that lion or the bear, he would have come away thinking that his rock didn't work. When in reality, he just used it on the wrong person in the wrong situation. Here's why I say that. Because I've recognized about myself. Now, some people may disagree on this, but I recognize about myself that I'm not the greatest motivator in the world. I've recognized that about myself. That if you want it, I can help you get it. But if you don't want anything, my rock does not work on unmotivated people. Somebody that doesn't want to do better enough to put in the work to do it. So I can pray for you, I can model it in front of you, but in terms of me being able to rah-rah you and cheer you up and be the cheerleader to get you to want to be better than you are, that's something that I struggle with, right? So my approach always is to show people what better looks like based on what God has given me, tell you what the Bible says, and pray that God would impart into people what they need to want better than what they currently have. So a lot of times the experience that people have with me, especially when it comes to me mentoring or imparting into them, is if you come to the table without a lot of motivation, then you're probably not going to get a lot out of me. That's just the reality. I've learned that about myself, right? So, but if those come to me that you're hungry, but you just don't know, you raw and you don't know, I want it, but I don't know what I need to know. I don't know what I need to do, but I'm willing to do what it takes to get it. My rock works in those situations and with those people. I can see exponential growth in their lives, right? So I said all that to say this, that we have to understand that even with that I come away from that knowing and understanding that I can't change a person. I can give them the information. I can pray for them that God would change their heart. But I can't change a person. The only person I can truly change, and only with the help of God, is me. So think about it this way. Is it easier to pick up the whole world and to shift it to make it fit how you feel? Or is it easier to adjust how you feel to find out where you fit? Let me say it again. Is it easier to pick up the whole world and to shift it to fit how you feel? Or is it easier to adjust how you feel to find where you fit? Because reality is sometimes we live in our own world. We live in our own head, and the only person that lives there is us. So we have our own constitution, we have our own rules and regulations, and the only person that lives in the world we live in is us. And the problem is the rest of the world doesn't live by the rules in our world. Now, it's one thing when we're talking about respecting boundaries, and we're talking about that you laying the law down for what happens in your space and in your place. That makes perfect sense. But when we start making up our own rules about how the world works, that's when we find ourselves in a frustrating place. That's an experiment in frustration, because the rest of the world is not going to play by your rules. You got it? And so therefore we have to understand that it's easier, instead of trying to make the whole world around us change to fit our feelings, it's better to adjust our feelings to find out where we fit in the world. Why am I here? What is the purpose and the reason that God placed me on the planet? And that's not about how I feel. That's why I was created. That's based on my purpose, not my feeling. Okay? So this week, I want us to do a self-assessment, all right? I want to read something to you, and I hope this sticks to your bones. Galatians chapter 6 and verse number 4. Galatians chapter 6 and verse number 4. Here's what it says. Pay careful attention to your own work. Listen to the words of Paul. For then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. Strong. I'm going to read it again. Galatians 6 and 4. Pay careful attention to your own work, self-assessment. For then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else. I've lived by this mantra for the entirety of my life, and that is, do you. But when I say do you, I'm not saying be carnal. I mean, who did God create you to be? Be that person, but be the best version of that person, right? At the end of the day, I'm too busy doing what God called me to do to worry about what other people are doing. I'm not comparing myself to anybody. I'm comparing myself to who I was yesterday. So if I'm better today than I was yesterday, then I won. I just be real about it. I say this all the time. There's some people who pastor churches who say, I want a church the size of TD Jakes. I never pray that prayer. Because of the capacity that God has given me is to pastor 20 people per se. I don't need 21. Because that 21st person is going to drive me insane. Because I don't have the grace for 21. I only have the grace for 20. But that comes from a self-assessment. God, what have you called me to do? And it's being content in the place, in the space that God gives you. Not complacent, but content. Complacency is about not just it's being a place of being apathetic. I don't care about growing. I don't want to be better. I don't want anything to be any different. I'm just locked in where I am. That's complacency. But to be content means this is what God has me for the time that I'm in right now. This is what he's given me, and I'm cool with that. That's contentment. Okay? So this week, there's a few questions I want you to ask yourself, and we're going to wrap up here. All right? When we're talking about this self-assessment piece. Number one, even looking at what the verse says, he says, pay careful attention to your own work. Look at what you're doing. It's not about what the rest of the world is doing. Because you can't change the world by changing the world. You change the world by changing you. Okay, let me give it to you again. You can't change the world by changing the world. You change the world by changing you. Pay careful attention, self-assessment to your own work. What are you doing or not doing, right? For then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done. When I know that I'm doing the best, that I'm functioning in excellence in every area of my life, that I'm maximizing every moment, I'm maximizing everything that God has placed in me, then I will get the satisfaction of a job well done. And then I won't need to compare myself to other people because I know that I've maxed out my own capabilities. It's not about them. I've done the best I can with who I am. God, here's what you need to know. God does not hold you accountable for giving him or maximizing something he didn't give you. It's just the reality. God is not holding you accountable about properly handling or maximizing something he didn't give you. He giveth seed to the sower. So when we talking about giving, God has given you something to give. The question is, what did you do with it? I don't have it to give. You gave it to somebody. Think about this. Even when we say, I don't have it to give, this is not a money seminar. It's not a money sermon. It's not a money talk. But if you look back through that week, what did you spend money on that you really didn't need to? That was a complete waste. So at the end of the day, that is an indication of what you value, because where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. See, those are real self-assessment kind of things. And even for the people who take offense to that, take the time to assess yourself. Did you not give your money in something this past week, to something that really was meaningless, that added no real value to your life, that there was no rate of return on what you gave it to? And if you can look at that and assess that and say, yeah, that's true, now you're making headway. Okay? So here's the question, all right? First question, who am I? Who am I? Do a self-inventory this week and be real with yourself about what you see. Okay? Take the emotion out of it and do an honest assessment. But the key is you have to be real with you. Be real with yourself. And reality, and here's what's crazy. Believe it or not, there's so many people who either don't have or don't use the skill of self-assessment. Because for some, it's extremely difficult for them to see themselves. That's why you have those persons, no matter what they do, they can do something to you or someone else, and it happens to them, and they just appalled by it. And you're thinking, you just did that last week. You do this to other people all the time. And that happened to you, and you just don't understand how people could do that. That's a person who struggles to be able to self-assess. They can't see themselves. And even when they look at the word of God, they don't see it as a mirror. They see it as a window through which to see other people. That's the reality. So everything wrong with the world is outside of them. There's nothing wrong with them. But here's the problem with that. If you feel like everything wrong with the world is outside of you, that means your world can only become better when people or circumstances outside of you change. So you're literally locked into an existence that even if you don't like it, you can't change it, because the only thing that can actually change is outside of you, because the only thing wrong is with people and places and circumstances outside of yourself. So it requires other people changing in order for your life to be better. And that's reality, because now we see people who constantly try to change everyone else but never change themselves. It's because they don't see, they've not been able to do a self-assessment to see that I'm part of the problem. Here's the reality. Think about it this way. Every situation you've been in, good or bad, the common denominator is you. You've been in all of them. Which means, unless you believe that every situation you've been in that's negative, it was always somebody else, that means there's something you can adjust and change about you. That's the reality. I'm talking about having a real self-assessment. Every time you've lost something, it was not somebody else's fault. Every relationship that has gone awry, it was not because they did something wrong. Every time you found yourself in a compromising position, it was not because life happened to you. I say this all the time. You are born looking like your daddy, but you die looking like your decisions. Self-assessment. And if your self-assessment system, hence the word, consists of you waiting on someone outside of you to tell you about you, then you are destined to fail. Because here's the reality, especially in a lot of times, and people who use that assessment system outside of themselves for somebody to assess them, they usually use an attitude attached to that. So now I'm going to depend on somebody outside of me to tell me about me, but I'm having attitude anytime you say something to me. So now it's going to make it difficult for you to say something, or you're going to be reserved about saying something to me about myself, about me. And that way I can live in this world as if I'm living in a place of perfection. And that's really crazy. That's how you get the Donald Trumps of the world who get on Air Force One with tissue on your shoe because somebody saw it and didn't say nothing. Because those who don't listen to those around them will soon be surrounded by people who don't have anything to say. Listen, y'all, I'm giving y'all a game I wish I would have had a long time ago, but I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not going to keep y'all all day. All right? Y'all got to go to work today. All right? So we all need people in our circle who can see our blind spots, and those persons who can speak the truth in love. But most of the stuff about us, we should be able to see in ourselves. Okay? Think about it this way. If you're driving a car and someone's sitting in the back seat or on the passenger side, they may be able to see blind spots or areas that you can't see. So you might ask the person in the car, hey, can I get over? Because I'm looking in my side mirror and I can't see a blind spot. But someone in the back from a different perspective can see it. But you shouldn't be dependent on people in the driver's seat or in the back seat to see the highway for you. They may be able to see the blind spot to tell you something don't get over right now as a car that you can't see in your mirror. But you're not dependent on those people to see the highway for you. Because if so, you shouldn't be driving. And if someone else is seeing the highway for you in life, you're not driving. Whoever that is that's seeing it for you is. And God intends for you to drive your life or lead your life, him lead your life, right? He's in the driver's seat. But he doesn't expect a person to be the person driving your life. That's between God leading your life and you following the leading in the direction of God. Okay? So who am I? Right? Be real about it. I don't like to be on time. I don't like to tell myself no. I don't like to think that I'm wrong about anything. Right? Who am I? Be real with it. Okay? Because you can't fix you until you find you. Good God Almighty. Can't fix you until you find you. Who am I? Where am I? Okay? Now, when I find out who I am, second question, who do I need to become? Because what God is doing, God is not blessing who you are. God is blessing who you're supposed to be. So he's not sending some blessings he sends to where you are so that you can survive and sustain, but that's not his best. God's best is attached to who he called you to be. Take that with you. So when I'm talking about who do I need to become, I'm not talking about becoming someone else. I'm talking about becoming the best version of yourself. I'm not talking about behavior modification. I'm talking about character modification. I'm not talking about changing necessarily just what you do. I'm talking about changing who you are. Okay? I can try to be more punctual. That's action-based. or I could become a punctual person. That's mindset based. I can try to be more. I could be better with money, right? I could do things, put things in place to try to be better with money, action based. Or I can become the type of person who sees money different. I could change my whole mindset about money. Rich people are not people that just do rich folks things with money. They're rich and they have a millionaire mindset first, and then it affects how they handle money. They're not handling money with a poverty mentality, because those things only last for a temporary period of time. They have a millionaire mindset, right? And then that changes how they handle money. All right. So, who am I? Who do I need to become? Here's the next question. What do I need to learn? So based on who I need to become, what do I need to learn to help me become that person? What books do I need to read? What seminars do I need to listen to? What mentor do I need to connect to? Right? But when I'm connected with a mentor, the key number one, when you come to a mentor, you have to bring motivation. It's not up to your mentor to motivate you. You bring the motivation. They're there to give you the game, not to motivate you to be to grow. They're not there to motivate you. They're there to give you game. You bring motivation to the relationship. All right, that's your first investment in your relationship with a mentor, is your motivation. All right, what do I need to learn? Here's the last question. Where do I get the information? Right. So that's how. What do I need to do to gather this information? What do I need to do in terms of the seminars, the people, the interactions, whatever? How do I do this? Where do I get this information from? And how do I pull these things together to become the type of person I need to be to get out of life what God has intended for me? All right. I know I went a little long this week, but we were off last week. All right. So take that with you this week. Do a real self-assessment. Be real with you. And I promise you, if you start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can, you'll see God do the amazing in your life. All right. I love you. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk soon.